Beloved, this is a very familiar passage of Scripture, and it deals with Father Abraham. Father Abraham was a patriarch of the faith. He was one who was called by God. And what does a call mean? Where God can call you from something and direct you to go to something. For some of us, that can be a very unnerving time, because there's so many voices out there, and you have to figure out which one is God's. Have you ever been in that situation where you thought you were supposed to do something, or you thought you were supposed to be somewhere, and you got all these different thoughts going through your mind and racing through your mind, and you're not sure? You have to be able to distinguish when it is God that is called discernment. Any person coming into ministry of discernment or discernment, you have to make sure that it is God that is calling you. Well, sisters and brothers, it's not just a pastor or a preacher or an evangelist that has to distinguish and interpret the call of God. Each and every one of you has to eventually answer the call of God. Answering the call of God, what does that entail? Well, as we look at this particular passage right here, and I'm reading the NET version, it starts off in chapter 12, and it says, "Now the Lord said to Abram," this is Abraham, but before he was Abraham, his name was Abram. It got changed later on. And the changing of that name signifies something in one's own life. When God calls you, He's going to transform. And you're going to feel the difference. You're going to know. You might not have a name for it, but you get kind of excited when you get an opportunity to share about the Lord, the good news, that God is in your life, that He's moving in a way that you can't describe, but you have an assurance that you're on the right path. We all need that in our lives. So Abram was told to go out from your country, your relatives, and your father's household to the land that I will show you. God has already prepared the place for you. He's prepared something for you, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new string of relationships. You know, we can't always stay the same. If you're always around the same people all the time, do you know so you can become stagnant? Because you don't have new ideas, new ways, or new perspectives. There's nothing new under the sun but the way we view things. You know, it's all been done before. But you have to trust God. You may not have seen it that way before. God called Abraham from a familiar place to go to an unfamiliar place. God does that. He'll shake up some stuff in your life. He did it for me. So if this text didn't help me, it's not going to help you. But I thank God a year ago, when it was just supposed to be a conversation, that the Lord saw something that He had already prepared over here at Forest Hill. For me. For us. But for me. Because you know why? I had to be obedient. And going to unfamiliar places can sometimes be unnerving. But Abraham had to exhibit something. And that word is called faith. You've got to trust God even when you can't see the way. You've got to trust God, even if you can't hear the way. You've got to trust God in all things. Now, this 12th chapter of Genesis pretty much parallels Romans chapter 4, because it talks about, and in the New Testament, his name had already been changed to Abraham. But Abraham was justified by his faith in God. That word called justification, in the New Testament, it's justification. That 4th and 5th chapter of the book of Romans reference it. When you get home, the theological term is called justification. Justification means this: just as if I've never sinned. Abraham was justified by faith, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. Because in the Old Testament, the promised seed would come through his line. Because all the way back in Genesis 3, when our foreparents, Adam and Eve, sinned, all humanity was cast off. We're born in sin, shaped in iniquity, and we knew that the Messiah would come. So this also starts that line. Many of you have been in Sunday school. There's a familiar song we used to sing all the time. Father Abraham had many sons. Many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them. And so what? So let's just right arm, right foot. Yeah, see? That's who the song's talking about. Father Abraham. We're brought together through that line. Jesus would come through that line. Isaac, the patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Through Jacob would be the children of Israel. Through the children of Israel, the lion from the tribe of Judah would come, and that's Jesus. I know those are a lot of names, but it all points to Jesus. Even in the Old Testament, the Old Testament never contradicts the New Testament, and the New Testament never contradicts the Old Testament. That's why I reference Romans in the New Testament, so we know we're talking about Father Abraham. Some of you guys have been singing that song, but that's who it's about. Because through that line, Jesus would come. That's how we could be justified. Ultimately, Jesus would lay down his life for you and for me. And if we receive him and accept him, Lord, if we answer that call, we are saved. Abraham had to be obedient and answer the call of God. So, beloved, God sometimes takes us from a familiar place to an unfamiliar place. But what is most important about that is that God calls us to trust him even when we don't see the full picture. Just as he called Abraham to leave what was familiar, he calls us to journey into a journey of faith that rests on his promises. Now, the Old Testament, and especially these first 5 books, they were not written to us, but they were written for us. They were written to the Hebrews, to the Jewish nation. But through Christ, he brings it all together. We can still rest on the promises of God, though, my sisters and brothers, because we're justified by faith, just as Abraham was justified. Abraham would do something in the preceding chapters. God would ask him to do something. God called him to do something. And Abraham had a choice whether he was going to do it or not, and he was to offer up his son. Now, God wasn't going to allow him to go through with it, because once he did it and he was obedient all the way to God, before he would sacrifice his son, God sent an angel to tell him, Abraham, don't do it. And then God had already prepared another sacrifice, and there was a ram caught in the thicket, in the bush. That's where we get that little terminology, a ram in the bush. God always has a way. He always prepares a way. You've got to trust it. You've got to believe it. But you must also be obedient to his call. Hell, God calls us in a variety of different ways. He calls us, number one, through his word. Are you reading the scriptures to get an understanding of who God is and how he's working in your life? That's important. That's how we stay in connection with him, is through his word, through a devotion. You know, I get the word for you today sent to me every day at 4:56 a.m. I'm not saying I read it at 4:56 a.m. I just know when it gets there. It's there waiting for me. But also, as we open it, we've got to trust God to give us the understanding so he can call us through his word, having that right relationship with him. He also can call us to a place. We might not know where that place is, but we must be willing to go. If he leads me, I will follow. Where he sends me, I will go. That takes faith and obedience. Abraham was obedient as God sent him out. And sometimes God calls us at times that we think are not the right opportune time. He called Abraham when he was 75 years old to travel, to go, to sojourn. We must be obedient and ready to answer that call. Many of you, I don't like to say well advanced in years, I like to say seasoned saints. But if you're in that 75 and up club, that's you. Your work is not yet done. Did you answer God's call? That's for all of us, because we're all, sooner or later, we're all going to be at that age. But he is also calling our younger people. You need to be able to discern the call of God in your life. And to make application of that means that sometimes God may ask you to leave behind what is familiar. That means he might take you out of your comfort zone. He might take you out of a safe place. God invites you, as he invited Abraham, to step out and trust him. Why? Because his call is rooted in his divine purpose for your life. Isn't that some good news, that God's already prepared the way before us? He has a plan for you, and he will complete it if you trust him. Even that 75 and up crew. How many of you, just be curious, 75 and up? Don't be ashamed. Raise that hand. Huh? This message is for you, but it's for all of us. God will use you right where you're at. So I want to pose this question to you again. You answer the call of God. Did you answer the call of God? If you didn't, it's never too late. Today, is he calling you to service? Is he calling you to be a witness? Is he calling you to help somebody? You know, God promised a blessing to Abraham. He said through him, all nations of the world would be blessed. Sometimes God is calling you to be a blessing to somebody else. He blesses you to be a blessing. And that's a good thing. And I've said it before, and this is for my seasoned saints and my younger people. Sometimes the only Jesus that your friends, family, and loved ones is going to see is the Jesus that they see in you. It's important how you represent him. So what is God calling you to? He can call you to service. He can call you to action. But what is important on your part is that you are obedient and you follow him. And you go where he tells you to go. Just like Abraham was. Might not be able to see it, but you got to trust him. And you must step out there on faith. So, the question again is this. Did God call you? Did he 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 call you? It's important that you come to know and understand and to be able to recognize God's voice when he calls you. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.